legendary bat flipper, our main man, San Diego's own MLB legend, new hitting coach for the Texas Rangers, Bret Boone, joins the show. Bret, how you doing, brother?
What's happening? How you doing? Just another day.
Taking the time, man. I know you're a busy man now. You're back affiliated, man. We will say so. I guess the question's got to change now for you. Where you? Is this something you always wanted to do again and get back in it, or did they come out and just reach out to you? How did it all happen?
Yeah, I never thought about. I consider myself just kind of a baseball savant. It's been my whole life. I mean, since I was a little kid, growing up in it, then my career, and I'm kind of it was out of nowhere. I was at a USC baseball game, and an old friend of mine, Michael Young, who was starting his career towards the end of mine, and I always followed him pretty closely. He ended up having a hell of a career himself. And we just met up at a USC baseball game randomly, started talking hitting, doing my podcast. I'm covering the Texas Rangers quite a bit in that American League West. And I said, what's wrong with those Rangers hitters? They're better than that. And I said, why don't you go down on the field? He goes, Booney, I like the role I'm in right now. He's an assistant to the general manager of the president. And, I just kind of said goodbye. Give Boach a hug for me. Tell CY hello, CY Chris Young. And that was it. And about an hour later, I got a call from Bruce Boach. He said, Booney, I want you to put the uni back on. So,
damn,
it's been interesting. In my history with Bruce goes way back. I played for him in 2000. He's been a close friend of mine for 25 years. And it was as simple as that. I was walking my dog on the beach, and the next thing you know, I was getting on a plane to go to Boston, and
wow,
it's been quite an experience. It's much different than I thought it would be.
Good or bad or indifferent or what?
Indifferent. It's not what I thought. For the last 5 or 6 years, I'd call my brother, or he'd call me, and we'd talk, and we'd talk mostly about the family, but it gets obviously with his Yankee situation, the subject seemed to always go back to baseball. And
right.
And I would kind of give him that brotherly advice when he was having a rough time, and kind of, hey, once that national anthem starts, all you can do as a skipper is put your players in the best position they can possibly be in to succeed. And after that, you really don't have any control. And I would get off the phone sometimes with him, and I'd think, why can't he just shake it? Why is it such a big deal? Now I'm back in it, and I understand exactly what not only skippers, but hitting coaches, pitching coaches, all coaches go through on a daily basis. You develop a bond with these guys, and it's almost like, and I've said this in a lot of interviews I've done, it's almost like I have 12 kids. I'd go watch my son play in the minor leagues, and you watch him, and you live and you die with him, and you've been working on certain things with him. And if it's, if he's in a hot streak, you're just a proud dad in the stands, not outwardly, but inwardly, you're just so happy for him. And when he's struggling, you're dying inside and just going, how can I help him? I can't go and hit for him. I feel the same thing with these players now. It's like you see the work that's put in behind the scenes, and it's like I'm spinning plates. You got 3 guys going over here, and this guy's struggling, and you got to go talk to him about something. Sometimes it's just a talk. Sometimes it's a sit down and looking for the right words in the right situation. Sometimes it's more of a mechanical thing, but we've got a great crew here in Texas, and we just had a tough 4 games, went extra innings 4 days, and we lost 3 of them at home, and they were heartbreaks. But I'm learning. I thought when you think you know it all about the game, it hits you over the head and said, no, you got a lot to learn. So I'm learning on this side of the ledger. It's been an emotional roller coaster, but I'm kind of loving it just because of this new rapport I have with a different group of young men.
Is this something you can see yourself doing for a long time? You want to coach and you want to get in this thing long term?
Well, we'll see. I don't know if it's always going to be a hitting coach. It could be in a different capacity. We'll see. The thing about this is I have no agenda. I didn't ask for this. It was kind of brought to me, and I accepted the role, and I gladly accepted the role. was a great opportunity. I didn't expect it. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't putting my name out there, and it happened. And at this stage of my life, life is so funny. You go through different phases, and you change as you move through life. And now my kids are getting to the point where they're all ready to get out of the house, and I've lived that part of my life. And I didn't expect to be in a Ranger uniform this year, and all of a sudden I am, because I just look at it from a spot of, this is where I'm meant to be. This is where I'm supposed to be. Baseball's in my blood. It's my whole life. I've got a lot to give to the game. And right now it's in the capacity of being the head coach for the Texas Rangers. Long term, I don't have an agenda. We'll see. I'm kind of living, hey, I just want to get this team, do my little tiny part. And that's what I tell people. Players are players. I'm a background player. Whatever I can do a tiny bit to maybe help a player here and help a player there. The goal is to get to the postseason. I think the talent is here in Texas to do that. And that's my focus right now. And as far as future endeavors, we'll see. We'll see. But there's no real thing. It's like, I'm going to be where I'm supposed to be now, a year from now, 2 years from now. So I really haven't looked into the future that much.
I got goosebumps for you. Just I'm circling dates for you already. You're playing your brother early August. You got the Yankees, so that's just like unbelievable. Just that you get to do that, man, and at this stage in life as well. Like, we get to play your brother. The Yankees they're over there in first place in the East. I mean, it's got to be surreal. Yeah, for you.
Well,
so I commend you.
Yeah, it is. It's, you know what it is. It's,
I envy you. Let me say that.
when you're young and you're going through this crazy game of baseball, and it's so hard. And I remember when I first got to the big leagues, and then I remember 5 years later, Aaron made his debut. We got to be teammates actually for a year in Cincinnati. But when you're young and you're in the grind, you don't really take the time to kind of take a step back and appreciate what you have. You're just so into today and tomorrow, and I got this guy tomorrow and this guy on Friday, and well, we got Roger Clemens Saturday. So you're so consumed with that, you really don't have time to stop and kind of smell the roses, to use an old adage. Aaron and myself have played against each other a lot. Him with Cincinnati, when I was in Seattle, when I was in Atlanta, San Diego. So we've had that brotherly thing on separate teams. I got to go to New York early in this process a couple months ago. And, the Boone family in general, we've kind of been spoiled to a point where we've gotten to do so many special things in the game of baseball. And I remember saying, hey, why don't you and Aaron take the lineup card out? Well, we've done this kind of, shticky thing for a million times in our lives, but I thought, I'll do it. And I went out there and at this time, it was something different. It was like, you know what? Look at us. Two mature adults. Well, I say mature with a little caution, but it's like, look at, where I'm at. I'm 56 years old. He's 51 years old. He's the skipper of the New York Yankees. I'm the hitting coach for the Texas, and we're exchanging lineup cards. It kind of gave me time to reflect and just think how lucky I am in this journey I've been on that sometimes in my life I have taken for granted. But I think as you get a little bit older and appreciate things a little bit more in life, it was a special moment for me in a life full of special moments, and just exchanging the lineup card. And I remember that day Harold Reynolds came out with MLB and sat down with us, and we kind of had a fun conversation, giving each other crap, obviously, like we always do, and we've always done since Aaron's, been 8 years old, tagging along with me in New Jersey with my older buddies. To fast forward to now, and it's like, it was really cool. I said, you get sick of doing the interviews, you asked to do a million interviews, but I sat down for that one with him, and it was kind of cool. It was like, it wasn't more of, I got to do something, I got to do this, I got to do that. It was more of, we get to do this and we get to do that. And I've got a lot of gratitude at this point in my life, and I'm enjoying this journey.
I'm excited. You're still doing your show, right?
I'm still doing it. It's tough,
hard.
right? Right now, I got to worry about getting wins.
No doubt.
It's going on this week. I'm going to have Rick Riz. We just got to play my old Seattle Mariner team, and I got to see a lot of old faces. Rick Riz, who's been the voice of the Mariners for years and years. It's great seeing him. Jay Buhner one of my teammates when I came up my rookie year and really took me under his wing. I got to see him, Danny Wilson, who's a guy I got to play 5 years with in Seattle as the skipper over there. So I got to see some familiar faces. That was a lot of fun. So we're gonna have Rick Riz on the program. He'll be coming on tomorrow. I'm doing a little cameos now, and then I duck out and Rich Herrera, who's been my my wingman throughout the years on the Bret Boone podcast. He's going to take over the interview. So that's how the way it's going right now, especially during the season, is I make a little cameo and then Rich does the interview, whoever the guest is that week. And we went from 2 or 3 a week to we're just doing one. We're scaling it back a little bit and try to get these Texas Rangers to the postseason.
And to that point, I want to ask you this, Brett. You kind of mentioned earlier, kind of you feel like you have like what you said, 12 kids right now.
I got 12 kids. Yeah,
you're coaching now. I guess describe the feeling. I'm sure there's probably been some moments where a guy's been struggling. You talk to him, help them out with a couple like tips, and now they go out there and then you see them succeed again. I guess that feeling that you get as a coach now, is it greater than or similar to how you felt when you were playing and you had those moments? Or I guess describe that comparison there.
Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Hitting a 3-run homer and as you open the show with flipping my bat, I don't know if anything could ever replace that. Actual feeling. But this is the closest thing. Yes. And it's not about getting credit. It's the player that does it. And when you see the work that goes in behind the scenes, and you see maybe a player that's been struggling, going through some trials in his career, and all of a sudden start to have success, it's unbelievable the feeling you have. And it's not important who knows. It's just a look, a glance between you, like, man, you got this. And I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy for you. And really, it doesn't, words don't even have to be exchanged. So yes, it's very satisfying in that capacity. To see guys doing great and succeeding, and it hurts equally. You know, I explain it this way. It's like when you're a player, it's 162 games you play every day. And some days you win and some days you lose. And some days you get 3 hits and you lose, and you're going to sleep okay that night and you go get them tomorrow. As a coach, it's like when you win, it's relief. Like, we won. When you lose, Bret Boone goes 0 for 5 every single time. So I never get a hit. I get relief when we win, but when we lose, it's 0 for 5 every time. And I'm learning that's what it's like being a coach. It's like you're in there, but you don't have any control. I've never felt more lack of control of anything in my life than I do coaching. You know, you do everything you can do. You can prepare them. And it's almost like once the game starts, you're a psychologist. It's like, okay, what's the right thing to say to player A versus I couldn't say that to player B. He'll take it differently. And what's the goal of today? The goal is to win this game. So how do I say the right thing to the right person at the right time to hopefully get the right result? Because he might have 2 or 3 at-bats left. So that's the tricky part. It's learning people. It's mentoring people and doing it in the correct way. And that one way is right for the collective.
Let me ask you this. You got Seager. I got to see here in LA, obviously. And then you had a guy that was on a heater there in this past month of June, Josh Smith. Having those 2 guys helps, right? Let me ask you the difference between like a guy like, you know, we've seen other guys take over hitting roles that have been power hitters in their playing careers, and then they go play and be the hitter. What's the difference? How do you guys, are you doing or teaching what you knew? Like, let's hit for average, let's hit base hits, find spots, find holes, go opposite field. Are you teaching whatever that guy has? If he's a home run guy, you're teaching that particular, I guess, trait. How do you go about it? And as far as you to a Mark McGwire, for instance, who was a power guy?
Well, I think the simplification is the best. As much as the game has changed, the game has still remained the same. The culture is a little bit different. These guys are brought up in a different generation of analytics and numbers, and sometimes you can get caught up in that minutia. I always say the technology is great. I'm envious of the technology that these guys have at their fingertips. I wish I had it. I was an Intel guy. Give me everything I could possibly get my hands on, and then I'll decipher and use what I need for my particular skill set. That's what I encourage with these guys. We're all different. We all do it a different way. We all prepare a different way. But I always tell them this: watch the game, play the game correctly. And when I say that, I mean, when there's a runner on second base and nobody out, I'm not saying give yourself up and hit a weak ground ball to the right side. I'm saying get a base hit the other way, but at worst, move him in trying to get a base hit the other way. Watch the game. That's important. Watch the series. Play the scoreboard. Every at bat is different. Your first at bat is different than your at bat in the eighth in a 3-2 game with a base open. Who's on deck? Who's hitting in front of me? Who's coming in? Who's in the bullpen? Who could I possibly face? What have I done this series? What have I beat them on? What have they beat me on? Know yourself and use your skill set accordingly. Everybody's different. So that's basically my philosophy. I teach them how to, I don't want to say teach. That's a little arrogant of me to say teach. I give them my experience. The first half of my career was much different than the second half of my career. The second half of my career, I prepared for each and every at bat over 162 game schedule. And I tried to get everything done, go through everything in my mind. And when I left that on deck circle, I want to have as clear a mind as I can and execute my plan. Now, that plan doesn't always going to work, but I find if you have a plan, stay with it. Don't waver from your plan. Trust it. Over 162, you're going to be the best you can be as an individual. And those are the things I talk about. We're always talking the game, because the physical is one thing. Your work in the cage is one thing on the technical, but really it's about having a feeling and how you go about playing the game. It's what's your thought process? How do you think through the game? The best players are 5 steps ahead of everybody else. And that's what I try to pass on to these guys. It's more than where your hands are. I tell them all the time, I said, sometimes if I've got a chance today is enough. Because this game is so hard and it's so long. Even my best of years, I was probably locked in, can't wait to get to the ballpark 25% of the time. And then there's that middle ground. That middle ground, probably on my best years, 70% of the time I was okay. I had a chance today. And then you have your 5% where I'm lost and I got to pull parachute and I got an emergency swing going today. And that's on my best years. So we don't have to be perfect every day. Just find something in that cage, find something in your swing that's okay. I've got a chance today with this. You don't have to be perfect there. If you're gonna set the bar of I've got to be perfect and my swings got to be perfect each and every day before I take the field, you're gonna wear yourself out. It's just too much. It's too much, and those are the things that I try to pass on to these guys that I learned throughout some struggles and some successes, but they're all experiences.
Nah, no doubt. I had a follow-up from when you played last and you took coaching, like Bruce coached you and other guys you've had, and to now you're going into the coaching world, and it seems like galaxies apart from when we played our sports respectively. Now you're in my wheelhouse in this coaching world. I love it. Is there a huge difference? You don't have to say, you don't have to give no name or anything, but have you had to face the psychological warfare yet of a guy tuning you out, or I'm better than you, I make more money, all that shit? Now that player empowerment, I think is kind of a I don't know, a sore eye on sports, in my opinion. But do you see it? Are you seeing any of that?
What I tried to do when I first got here, and I told everybody, because there was a big deal made of it coming back into the game, and I just thought, here's the deal: I'm not a witch, I'm not a sorcerer, I don't have a magic wand. It's a process, and the first of my process 2 months ago when I came on was I got to get to know these guys. I've got to, right? I found as an ex-player, anybody can Google you, so you're going to have instant credibility for.
I was going to ask you, do they know you?
Some of them do. I look at they all know who I am, but it's funny you say that. You get to a certain age and it's like, well, I've got an Evan Carter who's 22 years old, a Wyatt Langford who's 23. When I was wrapping up, they were 3 and 4 years old, so I don't think they watched many of my highlights. But you bring your credentials in and you have your numbers, and your numbers are your numbers, so you have instant credibility right away. But you got to keep that credibility, and that credibility is having something to help the individual. So for a while, I had to just get to know guys. Get to to the point where we had a relationship where we could talk back and forth and find out what makes you tick. But as much as the game has changed, and I said this earlier, the more it's stayed the same. These guys talk, they use numbers. You know, I have a good relationship with the majority of the guys, and you know, they'll talk about an exit velocity, or we talk about vert, or we talk about this. He's got 20 inches of vert on that slider, and I'll say, wait a minute, hold up. I said, translate. You want me to translate that for you? Yeah, Booney, go ahead. And they laugh. They know something's coming. I'll say, that's a really good slider. And I said, well, he hit that ball 104 at this angle. I said, you know what that is? That ball smoked. I said, that's the only thing that's changed in our game is we use terms like that. They use actual numbers that they're brought up in, but it's a culture.
Wow.
These guys are still baseball players, and they still want to play. Yeah, some things are different. Some things I wish were the way they were when I played, but on the same token, some things are better and they're cooler, and I envy and I wish I had. Here's the best scenario I could imagine with the game of baseball. A lot of guys that get older, get out of the game, they have that attitude of, oh, these guys today, the way they play, they're ruining the game. My time was the best. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think the best scenario is the players of my generation, the players of the generation before me. I've got a lot to learn from them. They can learn a lot from me, just like today's player. I think the players today can learn a lot from me and my travels and tribulations and the things I've gone through. But I can also learn from the modern player, and I find that every day I'll have a conversation with one of the younger players, and they'll come up with some scenarios and some ideas, and I'll go, "That's really smart," you know. So I'm still learning, and I think that perfect zone that you can get in is coach, ex-player, with the listening to the player that's playing in 2025, but him also listening to me. We can learn from one another, and I think that's where the magic is, right there in the middle.
That's a great point. I'm glad my co-host was able to hear that, because a lot of times we come on this show and we debate, whether we're talking about football, basketball, baseball, what have you, and JB is always like anti today's culture, and back in my day it was more physical and tougher and this and that. So I'm glad we had a guy like yourself come here and say that.
Believe me, though, I still give these guys a hard time when they got a little, my finger hurts, and I'll look at them. Are you serious? Are you serious right now? So I'm giving them I give them in a good way. I give them a little tough love too. Like, hey, and I'll go to what coach says. In my day, I wouldn't, I'd walk both ways uphill through the snow. And today you guys take an Uber, so I have that.
Cut my finger off to play this game.
Right. And I'll go so far with these guys that they'll start to mock me. Like, let me guess, Booney, in your day, you played with a broken back. I'll be like, well, I didn't have a broken back, but if I did, I would have played.
And let me ask you, are you forward thinking this thing? Like, let's say, okay, I can see me being a manager, my show. Are you looking at Bruce's way of how he's managing everything?
Absolutely.
And you're a coordinator. You're basically a coordinator in football right now. You got the offense,
right?
And are you worried about it? Are you focused on that, understanding like the protocol of the business and saying, I got offense to produce? Bruce has to worry about the pennant, the wins, the games back we are, et cetera, et cetera. You guys are 9 games back. It seems like it's feasible, though, to get back in this thing. We're in the dog days. Like, there's a lot of baseball left, right?
Right. I mean, I look at our lineup last night. We had 5 of our guys missing. 5 of our guys. We've got Evan Carter, who's on the bereavement list. He'll be back Wednesday. You got Wyatt Langford's hurt. Jake Berger, our first baseman's been out. We've missed Jock Peterson for a month. And Josh Smith was out of the lineup because of the lefty yesterday. So we go in there and battle and go into extra innings, and we end up losing in the end. But we had 5 of our main guys out. Tyler Maley's going to miss some time now, but we're just getting Nate Eovaldi back. We've got Jacob deGrom, one of the best pitchers on the planet. He's still there. Our bullpen's done a hell of a job. We've got a John Gray coming back soon. Sports is coming back. So we've got a lot of reinforcements coming. We just kind of got to hold serve right now. We got to play good baseball and start worrying about winning series, but we're far from out of this thing. And I think everybody in that room with that collective talent knows that. As far as your question about the future, I really am in the point where I do have no agenda. I don't know what the future holds for me. I hold Bruce Bochy in very high regards. He's one of my favorite, not only men in baseball, one of my favorite managers I got to play for. He's probably the most knowledgeable, war-ridden, and I say that not in the true capacity of it, but he's been through the battles. He's 4-time World Series champion. He's probably the most knowledgeable, with the most experienced manager walking this planet right now. And to get to watch him every day, how he interacts. I'm always learning from people. I always look around like, what's Bruce going to do in this situation? And you learn stuff from that. I learned from all the managers I played for. They all have different traits, and some I'd take from him and I'd take some from another guy, but it's a pleasure to watch Bruce. He's such a great guy and a great baseball man, and just to watch him run a game, and I'm always running it through with him, in my brain at the other end of the dugout. Like, I wonder what Bruce is going to do in this scenario. And so I'm always thinking, because just like everything else, I want to think offensively. Who might he pinch hit for? Who's going to be getting ready underneath? Who might come in for the other team? And who's Bruce going to counter with? So I'm always thinking with the manager as well. But my main focus is getting my hitters in the best mental frame they can be to get ready for an AB.
Brett, I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling bullshit, though. Your dad was a manager. Your brother's a manager. You got to be a manager. The family, you got to be that. You got to be the big dog at one point to finish this whole legacy, this family tree. No,
he's not saying no. He didn't say he's not going with any plan. He's just going with the flow.
I'm going with the flow, like I told you, and I truly believe that. And I know it sounds corny, but when I walked out the first day on the job, it was at Fenway Park. And I met the team in Boston. I hadn't even met all the players yet. And I remember I walked out into the dugout, get ready for the first pitch. And I think that's the place where I ended my career. My last at bat was at Fenway Park. And I just kind of looked out, and in a corny dork moment, which I consider myself not to be, I just thought, this is where I'm supposed to be right now. I don't know why I'm here right now. I was put here for a reason. And that's how I kind of live my life these days. I've been through a lot in my life, a lot of great things, a lot of challenges. And at this stage of my life, I kind of just accept it and go with the flow. And I'm right where I'm supposed to be for a reason. And if I'm going to manage one day, it'll be because I'm supposed to be. But
hey, there's two things going on. I just here in LA. So obviously, hopefully Ron Washington's okay. Former Texas Ranger manager, obviously stepped away from the manager spot of the Angels here.
Right.
That comes to mind. I'm like, Bret Boone looks good. Hopefully he's not. That's not the reason why, but that'd be great. But your brother calls you and says, "Hey man, let's make this a family thing. I need a hitting guy next year."
And I'll be honest with you. When this came up, this hitting coach for Bruce, I had talked to my wife a few weeks earlier, and because I'm always getting the question, are you ever going to get back in the game? Are you ever going to put a uniform on? And I said, I'll never say no to anything. I don't know what I'm going to do. And my wife had asked me, and she said, would you ever go back on the field? I said, it would, in a coaching capacity. She said, yeah. I said, it would have to be for the right person. And she said, and this is a true story. She says, well, who would be a right person? I said, off the top of my head, Bruce Bochy. And this is 2 weeks before I got the phone call. Bruce is one of the few guys that I would come back and coach under, and Bruce was one of those guys. I think in Aaron Boone's scenario,
family's different, huh?
I mean, if my brother called me out of desperation because he knows I'm smarter than him and he needs me,
brother, I need you.
I could never say no, but at the same time, Aaron and I have that's Aaron's gig. He's the Yankee guy. It's not the Boone Brothers show. It's the Aaron Boone. He's the skipper of the Yankees. So I don't really see that in my future. But just in a hypothetical, if Aaron called me as his brother one day or had called me 3 years ago, of course, for my brother, it's a different scenario. But we never got to that point. And I think it's been better in that capacity because that's Aaron's thing. That's not Aaron and Bret's thing. And by the way, I couldn't imagine calling Aaron Boone my boss. That's a
younger brother.
That's a little far-fetched.
Ooh, love it, man. Hey, I love the realness and the transparency, man. I can't thank you enough for hopping on. I know you're busy as hell. Good luck. You're 9 games back. You're in the mix. To me, man, the talent's there. You get your guys back.
Here's the thing about today's game, and it's so much different than years past. All you need is a seat at the table. You don't necessarily, of course, you want to win the division. Everybody wants to win the division, but all you need is a seat at the table. You get a seat at the table. I think recent history has proved that getting a seat at the table, you got a chance. This Texas Ranger team 2 years ago got in. They lost 3 out of 4 to finish the season. I remember because I was covering it on the podcast. They lost 3 out of 4 to the Seattle Mariners, and it got them a playoff berth. But they lost the division in that series, and they had to avert the plans. And instead of going back to Texas, they had to, I forget where they flew. They won the World Series that year. And I think I look at an Arizona Diamondbacks a few years ago, won 83 games, I think 84 games. We're in the World Series against the Texas Rangers. So I think the recent history and how the playoff schedule is set up, all you need is a seat at the table. You get a seat at the table, you got a chance.
Yes, sir.
No doubt.
Let's go. We got 3 months. We got 3 months.
Good luck. Hey, hopefully we'll get you back on it when you're in the playoffs.
You got it anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you.